We will bring the Rules Committee meeting to order for our September meeting. This time I call this to order. Invocation. Edoldig alumni hang ko he gills a lee han lead. He got the knees like the access to do hesty. Well, let's go ski lost the do hesto zoop to need on Edoldig. The most gracious Heavenly Father, just be with us as we come to take care of the business of the tribe. And let us always keep our people at first hand, dear Lord, and do what it is your will and not our will, dear Lord. Guide and lead us today in our decision making. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. We're done. Roll call, Shelley.
Joe Byrd.
Honey.
Ryan Warner.
Honey.
Bill England.
Honey.
Keith Austin.
Here.
Harley Buzzard.
Here.
Sean Crittenden.
Honey.
Mike Robbins.
Here.
Frankie Vargas. Wanda Hatfield.
Honey.
Rex Jordan. Dick Lay. Mike Shambaugh.
Here.
Mary Bakershaw.
Honey.
Joe Smith.
Here.
Denise Taylor. Here. Victoria Vesquez. David Washington.
Honey.
We have a quorum.
Okay, the minutes were mailed to you. At this time, I entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it. Reports, Marshall Shannon Buell.
Good afternoon.
Okay, Shannon.
Besides the report, also I was going to kind of brief real quick. Our emergency management department activated their entire resources for the national holiday. From my viewpoint on the national holiday this year, for law enforcement and stuff like that, it went much smoother than it has in years past. I hope that the other departments look at it the same way, but we like that new integration that we did with emergency management, and we'll continue that. Also, our Swiftwater dive team, 2 of them, and emergency management staff was asked to come out to Cherokee, North Carolina to help the Eastern Band of Cherokees deal with some of the flooding things they had from the hurricane. We went out, assisted for a couple of days. There wasn't as much rain as they expected, but what my staff did do is help Eastern Band kind of integrate their flood water management plan, and we'll continue to help them from here. So those 2 things is probably not on the packet that you received.
Okay, anything else for our marshal? One question here. There was a tribal member, I won't mention the name, that the veteran that was very ill, vehicle outdated probably, and probably not even no insurance from what I hear. He drove himself to the hospital, Hastings. He's on his way home, he gets stopped, and they impounded his car. When he called back, I don't know what the time frame is where you got to go back and get your vehicle. This guy doesn't have many resources, but they said they had already sold his car. He was that car was handed down to him in the first place. Very few resources, this guy. Is there a time frame on to go back and reclaim your possessions?
There is. It's usually that record service will have in their policy how long they're going to keep whatever that item is before they can resell it or it becomes theirs.
30 days maybe?
Sometimes it's 30. It just depends on that record service. But
Okay.
Offline, if you'd like, email me the information that you have, and I can look into it.
Okay.
Most definitely.
All right, appreciate it. Anybody else? Yes, Councilor Shaw.
Hi, Shannon. Shannon, what can you tell us about what's happened up at, with Florence, Hurricane Florence? Did we, and with our Eastern Band of Cherokees?
The Eastern Band did get some rainfall. They were expecting 40 inches of rain, so that's why the chief of the Eastern Band called us. We sent out our task force to help. Actually, they didn't get a lot of rain there, so we brought our guys back. They sent their Swiftwater team closer to the coast. So the tribe wasn't really impacted that great where they were, so some of their resources went on east over to the affected area.
Well, I'm sure proud that our tribe tried to help our brothers.
Well, thank you.
Good. Anybody else? Yes, Counselor.
On the Warrior flight to Washington, the two marshals you sent did an excellent job. They were on the spot on everything. They were very much involved. They did a great job.
Well, thank you. One of the marshals on the flight is a Marine Corps veteran. The other one was a veteran of the 82nd Airborne. Spent several tours of duty overseas. Both outstanding young marshals that we have. We have the new crop of marshals that we keep getting just continues to amaze me on the quality, the dedication to service that we see in our marshals. So, thank you.
He made a point to let everybody know he was a Marine.
You know, they do that a lot. I don't know why.
He actually was able to sing the Marine song solo in front of a group of strangers. I was very proud of him.
Wow.
Yes, anybody else? Counselor Walker Stick.
Thanks, Speaker. Shannon, what's the status of the pay raises for the marshals?
We completed our analysis, and now it's moved over to another department. There's several steps that the tribe does, mainly to make sure our numbers are good. You know, I don't want to, last thing I want to do is send you all a document and the numbers not be absolutely 100%. So I know that the AG's office will look at it. I know that HR, their staff and their analysts will look at it to make sure our numbers line up and our numbers are right. But we're right on track as far as I know to get that done.
What department is that in right now?
I believe it's at the AG's office, and then it'll go probably over to HR. But once it gets back to us, if there is any changes that need to be made, once all the analysis is done, whether it takes 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever, HR said that we can start that rate at the time that we started this process. So.
Okay, is there, will there be any restitution made or anything?
I don't know
Like
what you
last
mean.
So 6 years ago, we went back to the BIA pay scale, and then since then, it's been stagnant or frozen, if you will. So, well, not unless you count the 3% they get every year. But-
We should be counting the 3% every year. That's one of the things we had to look at. And did that individual marshal take the 3% as a increase to their pay, or did they take the 3% in a lump sum? So there's a lot of analysis that has to go in there.
But if the cost is offset from the 3%, say the BIA is up here and the 3%'s right here, will the restitution that will compensate those marshals for the last 6 years?
To be honest, I don't have that information.
Okay. All right.
I can tell, I talked to HR that once we looked at this in budget hearing, that he said that I can write a document, if there is changes, that we can retrograde to that date of the budget hearing. So let's say there's a $1 an hour raise, let's say, and we come to the council in December, so from May to December, they'll get kind of what I was told was they get like a lump sum, and then the pay starts. So.
What's your time frame, Shannon? What do you think? Are you still shooting for November to bring it to the
My stuff's done, so what I'd be honest, I don't want to rush a department that's checking my numbers, because at the end of the day, I don't want to come here to this body and tell you it is A and it not be A.
Okay. Is the BIA pay scales already out there, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Good. Anybody else? Good report.
Thank you.
Office of the Attorney General, Chrissy Nemo. Hello.
I just have a couple of things. I think I told you last month we were hiring a new attorney for our office, and that position closes tomorrow. So if you know any Cherokee attorneys that want to apply, tell them tomorrow's their last chance. I sent around this morning, I don't know if it's been distributed yet or not, the amicus brief that we filed in the Murphy case. We filed that Wednesday of this week. The state now will get the chance to file a reply brief, and we believe that the Supreme Court will hear oral argument on that case probably the first week of December, but we don't know for sure yet. So I will keep you all updated on that. I had several emails and questions about the survey that the AG's office sent out. I talked about it last month. but it is legitimate. It is ours. The data came from registration in a legally acceptable fashion. All of the information is confidential. We will get back de-identified data, so we won't know what person answered what question. We'll just get basically the raw data, not connected to the individuals. It's both emails and postcards. So the email goes out and you can click directly on the link, and then the postcards have a website that you can go to and put your information in. So if there are any questions about that, I'll answer it, but I sent out some information. I think that's all I have to announce, and I'll take questions.
Any questions for our REG? Counselor Shaw?
Yes, is it possible that you could send us a copy of what those surveys look like? Because I've been called several times on this, and they don't understand the nature. They're all gathering it for a database or something. They don't understand, because the questions have nothing to do with, it seems like, with healthcare is what I've been told.
I will send
And
it.
nothing to do with monetary judgments, which is what I thought this was going to be about.
The healthcare questions are: where do you receive healthcare, whether or not you have insurance, whether you have been diagnosed with a specific list of diseases. But we have the entire printout of all the questions, and I can get that to
Would
Gail
you?
to distribute.
How do those questions you just gave us, what do those have to do in pertaining to healthcare for litigation purposes?
I would rather talk offline about that. I mean, we have pending litigation, and we have possible future litigation, and I would be happy to talk to you. I just don't
Sure.
necessarily
Well,
want to.
I cannot but think all council would perhaps like to see a copy at least of both surveys, so we could have a better understanding of what our constituents are calling us about.
And I've got, I've actually shared it with a few who had asked, but I've got the actual printout of all the questions and how they're asking. Also ask about household makeup, and there are some financial questions on there about whether you've used check cashing services or prepaid cards. And again, that could be related to future litigation, and I would be happy to talk to anyone that wants to talk to kind of the theories and how maybe the nation has been harmed by some of that stuff, but I can't do it here, so
Okay.
I will be available.
Well, if you wouldn't mind giving us copies.
And I will send that this afternoon.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Would you send that if we request it? If we don't request it, don't send it.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Counselor Lay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'd like to request that if we have to.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
I think I sent it to you, Counselor Lay.
I'm sorry?
I think I sent it to you. But
The questions?
I believe that's what I sent you
Okay.
yesterday, but I'll check.
I'll look through. Thank you. De-identified data. So somebody gets the data and they de-identify it for you?
So we hire a survey company. It's SSRS, I believe, and this is what they do for government, for private business, for individuals. They do surveys, and they are the ones who, through computer programs and all of that, get the data, sort it. But I will not be able, and I've completed the survey. I got one, actually came in my daughter's name because that was the email that was selected. And I will not be able, even what I get to see, I will not be able to see the answers to my questions connected to my name or my email address. For example, one of the questions is, well, where do you receive health care? And tribal clinics or tribal hospitals is one of the answers. So if 9,000 people take the survey, we'll know the total number of people who take the survey. And of course, people don't always answer all the questions, so different questions could have different total numbers. We will get the breakdown of how many people chose that answer. We will not see any individual's response. Now, there will be some identifying information. For example, if you want to look at by zip code, how the answers were broken out. But we will not be able to look at Counselor Dick Lay's response and look at the answers to his questions. And there will be no data in what comes back to us in a secure, confidential manner. This is what this company does. So these things come, they're encrypted, and It's very secure, but we will not be able to see individual citizen data connected to the answers of their questions.
So the registration department or you or somebody sent this company our information?
Yes.
So they have that information?
Under
If it's
a-
mine, they have mine.
Under a very strict confidentiality
I
agreement.
understand that, but somebody outside the Cherokee Nation has Cherokee Nation registration data. Okay? And so I'm gonna tell you right now that that's a red flag to me. And of course, I've already told you that, but in an email. But anyways, I'm telling you that that's a red flag to me. I don't know who this company is, and they may be next to infallible, but sometimes things happen. And so that's a problem with me. The other thing is, who authorized this? Who does it take to authorize this kind of a
Well,
process or a survey or a transaction? Or-
under the law, and it says, if you'll give me just a second, I can pull it up.
You
but-
mentioned a CNCA, and you lost me when you did
Oh,
that.
that's the shorthand for the Cherokee Nation Code annotated.
Yep.
It is a section in Title 11, which is citizenship.
Well, let's cut through that. Who authorized it specifically?
The chief or his designee
Which one?
through the
chief or his
through
designee?
registration. I don't know, sir. I can find out.
Can you find that out?
I will. But it can be, and just, I mean, when you think about how this, we have other situations, like if we do a mailing, that we don't do in-house, meaning we don't print the labels and slap them on an envelope, and that goes to a mail house. They get contact information, and that's all that was shared here was contact information. It wasn't things like dates of birth or anything like that. It was email address
It was
or
not available.
address.
Children are.
Right,
getting-
right, because if they knew my daughter was
Yeah.
4, they wouldn't have sent her an email, right? So it was
So-
name, address, physical address, or email address.
So how good is the survey gonna be when 4-year-old kids get?
Well, it does ask you whether or not you are, I think it asks you whether or not you're over the age of 18 and whether or not you are the individual to whom the survey was addressed when you're answering it.
It's always been tradition here that whatever is in the files in the registration department should stay there and not be shared outside to the general public or to you and me as far as that goes. And so we've breached that now.
I would disagree.
If you breach it on a daily basis, I'm even more concerned about that.
I would disagree. The law, and this is the law that is not a recent change, and it specifically says that labels, list, and there's a third one, that's what I was about to pull up.
But we need to review that, chief. I'll put that on next time. And so that's really all I have.
Just, I mean, there are other
We'll just
examples,
Review that part of the law. If you can send that to me, I'll put it on.
and it was, I should have, because I'm a lawyer and I speak in lawyer words, Cherokee Nation Code. So what I sent in the email was the exact quote from, or the quoted language from Title 11, under which data can be used for these types of
I
things.
understand. We'll need to review it. Thank you.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Counselor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair. The registration on the form that we give to future constituents to become tribal citizens was amended in what year, 15 or 16?
That would be a question for registration. I don't
Okay,
have,
I say 15 or 16, and the difference of this form was a disclaimer that was put on there. And the disclaimer was, once the person signed off on the form, that it allowed the tribal administration to access their records to use it for whatever purpose that is. And that's a new amended form versus the old form.
well, I don't know anything about the form. I know the law hasn't changed in years, in at least 10 years, I don't think.
Well, that's,
I don't know what the form
if
is.
you go
or-
online right now, look at the Cherokee Nation registration form. there's a disclaimer on there that allows the tribal admin to access their records, to use it for community meetings or whatever that is.
Well, there are other reasons. So one of the examples with the hunting and fishing license, if you come in to get a hunting and fishing license, they check registration database to ensure that the address you're using is the one that you have registered, that you are the person you're saying you are. We use, there are various departments within the Cherokee Nation that have access to registration data to determine whether or not someone's a citizen when they come in and apply for services.
So when you guys go to registration, you guys request the data, Excel format, Excel sheet, whatever that is. Does that go through some type of FOIA or GRA, or is there some kind of, do you guys have to put your name on a list to document that you requested that information? Like the Attorney General's office,
Right.
which requested registration to give us 370,000 addresses and names and email addresses.
I know that the request is in writing because you have to specify
So it is right.
what it is you want, but
So there's records of it.
I don't know the extent to which that is done. I don't know if they keep a log. I can find out,
So my
but
next question is, if this form was amended back in 16, the candidates, the people that received the survey, are those the people that received it, or people that enrolled from 2016 to year to date, or are these all the people in registration date in the database?
I don't believe it was all. I think it was a statistical selection. I'm not aware of the 2016 change, so I can't answer. I will have to look at that. I can't answer any questions about that.
I'll have Jennifer print this one out while we're meeting and pass it around. Their thing is so where did the info come from? You said the AG's office?
What info? The
The request?
The request?
request for the data
No,
from
the survey.
it was done at the direction of the Attorney General's office. The actual sending it out is the company that we contracted with.
Okay. Well, ago you said the chief or designee, so it was the AG's
No,
office.
that's what the law says, the process for approving the request for information. The actual people sending the postcards and sending the emails is a company that the AG's office is contracted with.
Is there a way you can provide this body with the contract that was written for the SSRS and the confidentiality disclaimer?
I know I can let you see it. I don't know if I can provide it to you, but I will follow up on it.
I like to see it. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, Counselor Shambo.
Hey, Chrissy. Last month, we talked a little bit about some jurisdictional things at the Claremont Indian Hospital. Has anybody from your office contacted the feds, the BIA, about that, address that?
Yes, and I thought you were on the email that I sent, and if you weren't, I apologize. I tried to address it to those counselors who asked about it last time. We had lots of contact. Marshal Buell contacted the U.S. Marshal's office in the Northern District. We reached back out to the U.S. Attorney's office. They sent a new letter, but also attached a letter from several years ago that they had sent to Claremore IHS. The U.S. Marshal's office indicated that they were not interested in special commissions because they're of the opinion that the way you provide law enforcement there is through the Federal Protective Services. There was a letter from the U.S. Attorney's office saying, we also believe that the way to have law enforcement there is Federal Protective Services, and they attached a copy of a letter that they sent to Claremore IHS CEO in 2016.
What's the end result? What will that be?
So the only immediate way to provide any additional law enforcement there is for the hospital, Claremore IHS, to contract with Federal Protective Services. We are working, and I say we internally, our office, Marshal Buell administration, on some internal meetings to determine what the next steps are, both what the tribe may be able to do immediately to provide some assistance there, also some possible long-term solutions. But we did, the first step was reaching out to kind of our federal partners to see if there was a way through cross commissions or something like that, and it doesn't appear that that's going to be possible. So kind of what our other options are, we're looking at. And I apologize. I thought I put you on there, and I'll follow up, and if not, I'll send you that information.
Thank you.
Okay? Yes, Counselor Shaw.
Yes, one more question. I'd like to inquire about the privacy statement on the application for our CDIB cards. Did we just violate that privacy statement that we have on those cards
I
by those surveys?
think maybe that is what Counselor Walking Stick was asking about, but again, I'm not sure. And the CDIB application is federal law. We just process those.
Okay, so we didn't get any information off the CDIB application.
No. I mean, that obviously information from there is put into the actual database that registration has, but we don't get copies of, they go in and through, someone in IT is able to query this and pull out information in some type of electronic format. So there's obviously information in the system that comes from applications, but we don't have the applications, if that's what you're asking. I'm not entirely sure what the question is.
Well, it's just the privacy statement that our citizens sign when they receive on that application for their CDIB card. I just want to make sure we're not violating that.
I don't believe that we are, but can look at it.
Good. Anybody else? Okay, good report. William Terrapin.
Good afternoon. So far today, we've got 16 total requests between FOIA and GRA. 13 of those are FOIA requests, with 4 of those that are outstanding at this time, and 3 GRA requests, and 1 of those is outstanding. And it wasn't on the report, the new GRA request, because it came in after I had already updated the website and sent out the report to everyone. So, but everything has been taken care of, the website's up, and it's good for right now.
Okay. Any questions? You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Report. Tax Commission, Sharon Swepston. Give us some good news.
Afternoon. I think you have my report. I'll try to answer any questions you might have.
Yes, Counselor Buell?
Thank you. Sharon, I'm still getting a lot of complaints about the Catoosa tag off.
Yes.
Somebody told me they waited 2 hours or 2.5 hours last week.
If it's on a Friday, then that's possible. Mondays and Fridays are the busiest days up there. And we have had an issue with staff. We have hired one, and I believe she's still got one that's open. And I'll just be real honest, I got another one that just turned in a resignation. So I have spoken with Mr. Morton at HR. We're trying to look at our job descriptions, because I'm having issues keeping them, because they can go to work in another department, not have to deal with the public, not have to deal with all the legal documents and get chewed on. And so it's difficult for me to keep them. And it's not an overnight. I can't just hire somebody the next day they can go out. It takes, a month or 2 to get them trained to where they understand all the processes and everything. So it's a long process. And we are also, I have spoken with the lady that runs the travel visitor center there, and she's getting with her people to see, is there any way for us to have a little more space? Do we need to look elsewhere? So we're looking at that also to see what we need to do as far as, because I know it fills up really fast up there.
Yeah, and I appreciate, and I know you understand, but
Oh, I do.
those citizens are
I know.
just, and there's some of them from like Hard Rock.
Well-
I've tried to run over on their lunch break.
And that's almost impossible sometimes,
It's
especially if
impossible.
it's a Monday or a Friday, or right after a holiday. And that's usually when we fill up really fast.
Like I
So
say, I know we own the property to the west there, and I
Right.
think it may make a nice big, because I think that tag office is always gonna do good.
I think you're right. That tag office probably runs the closest to the Tahlequah office as any of them do.
Right.
So,
If they didn't have to wait so long and did later, they'd probably run more than town.
And just remind all your constituents that if they have a regular tag, they can renew it online. So they don't have to go down there and wait.
I tell them just go to Collinsville.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? Sharon, you're doing a good job. You and your staff, keep up the good work. Appreciate
Thank you. I just need to keep them.
Yes. Counselor Crittenden.
No, I didn't have a question.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Gaming Commission's up next.
Do I have the floor?
Wait till Jamie.
Okay. I'll wait on Jamie. Just
You're up.
on down.
Sorry about that. I apologize, my allergies are rearing their ugly head today. Hopefully my report made it into the packet. If there's any questions on it, I'd be glad to answer them. If not, I'll get you a copy of the report.
Okay. Any questions? Everyone's been so busy trying to recuperate from holidays that
Holidays takes their toll.
new budget year. Yes. Okay, good report.
Good job, Jamie. Nice to see you.
One more item. Not Counselor, but Dr. Morton. Yeah.
Good afternoon.
No.
The project that we're handling right now is the end of the year, and so the merit announcement went out last week. Do you guys get the all-employee emails? Because I sent out the instructions,
Yes.
you have a copy of those? Okay. I should have asked beforehand, I was just going to send it to you if you don't get those.
Appreciate it.
We will be working on those next couple weeks, and when I leave here, I will go start signing documents and doing paperwork.
Good.
About 3,600 pieces of paper or electronic processes. Does anyone have any questions or?
Any questions for Dr. Morton? Counselor Buzzer.
My question is, Mason, in Sharon Swepson's situation about keeping people there, how are we gonna fix that? I mean, to me, maybe the job description needs to be rewritten and offer more money for people to take that abuse. How do we fix something like that?
We had the occasion to talk when we were waiting in line last month, Ms. Swepson and I, and we kind of lined out some things I can do to help, and in both areas, both with onboarding and compensation, to take a look at it. So I have, within my group, I have a group that takes care of the hiring process. Also, I have an in-house recruiter that helps with hard-to-fill positions. So I have two groups within my group looking at it. We're going to continue to work with her to fill the positions because she has, you're aware, different locations. So we'll have different solutions based on the specific problems each location has, or I should say challenges.
Well, it's gonna be a problem from now on if we don't pay those people to stay in those positions to take that abuse. You guys can work it out. It needs to be worked out, because this is a problem with her department, and probably more departments than that too, so something needs to be done.
And I'll go ahead and put that on my notes to mention an update for you next month.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Counselor Chris.
Wait till after.
Yeah. Yes, Counselor Walker-Stick.
Is this the appropriate time to amend the agenda?
We're almost through with this, and we get into the next business, new business item.
Are you finished with your report?
Yes, may be excused.
I have one question, and you can write it down for me.
Okay.
The highest amount that a bilingual person at the Cherokee Nation is being paid. You just put a number down for me, and you just hand it to me or give it to Gail. I'm just curious.
I'm not sure I can find out, but I will see if it's possible.
You know, I go to the health food store sometime, and they have fish oil there, Did you know they can find out exactly where that came from and what area? And I know we can find out.
Yes, they can track a package, and it's
Yes.
and it's amazing what your phone can track.
That's right. Okay,
All right.
thank you very much.
I'll see what I can do.
Yes. Are we through with them, or are we going to do more questions?
I just had a question on another subject.
Okay, Counselor Buzzard, go ahead.
I was looking at the self-governance report for Karen Ketcher. Is she not?
Oh, is anybody here from self-governance?
Karen reports quarterly now. They got her traveling a lot, and
Oh, I
and
see.
is that correct? But is there a report in there?
Well, yeah, her report's in there, and I had questions about the sanitation deficiency system. They're making changes to it, and I'm just curious what those changes were.
Okay.
Because the sanitation deficiency system is really important to Cherokee people, for the services that you get from those deficiency system. The other thing is on the Indian Healthcare Improvement Fund Act, there was $10,000 that the Cherokee Nation received, and I was wondering where that was going to be used.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Secretary, anybody answer that? We got anybody? Are you on?
Speaker, I don't have an answer to those questions, but if council members would email this Catcher and CCD, we'll make sure it gets followed.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Yes.
Speaker, is this appropriate time?
I'm going to yield to Councilor Crittenden first. He had the floor first.
Thank you, Speaker. Members, I want to make a motion to amend the agenda. I guess a month or so back, there was talks about electing a election board commissioner, and those things come around quite a bit in different boards, and received a phone call from the gentleman. We had a good talk, and something I probably should have known, but I didn't at the time, that I thought it was an open seat. Because as you know, we get a lot of open seats here, and we fill them and move on. Like I say, we had a good talk with the gentleman that I thought was going to be nominated, and I had plans to go one way. A few weeks later, we get our legislation either in a book, or I get mine to this iPad. Let me just read you what I got here. A resolution confirming the nomination of blank as Cherokee Nation Election Board Commissioner. Sponsored by Council Lady Vasquez. And that caught me by surprise. I can't really use the new boy thing anymore. I'm 3 years into this, but I don't think I've ever seen that before. So that caught me by surprise. Then a conversation I had just in the last few days, I found out this really wasn't an open seat. It's in fact occupied right now by a 20-year plus experienced lady, Martha Calico. So I got on the phone. I had some questions. I thought, Martha might have been ready to do something else, but I talked to her, and I just asked her, hey Martha, I understood this was open. I didn't know it was your seat. She said, well, it'd have to be the council. So I said, well, I'm one of them right now. So I just asked her, would you like to do this, continue? She's been doing it 20-something years. And she said yes. So the reason I'm wanting to amend the agenda is not to go against anyone. It's to give this long-time board member a chance for us to consider letting her keep her spot. So I want to make a motion to amend the agenda, and I want the other nominee, right now mine just still says blank, and unless somebody else has been filled in.
The way we've always done it, Counselor, is if it's a council appointment, then we leave it blank. If it's executive branch appointment, then we've always put the name.
All right,
in.
that's just.
That's just the way we've done it.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's
believe
the only way to do it,
Right.
but that's just the
I
way it's
believe
always
you.
been done.
I just never have seen it.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm wanting to do is first amend the agenda to make a motion.
We got a motion to amend the agenda. Here, second. You got a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Wait, amend to do what?
The-
Make a motion to
Point of order.
elect Martha Calico to the Election Board Commission.
First, we got to amend the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Because we
Well,
got
they
that.
was asking me what for. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay. Are we good?
Speaker.
I want to make a motion to amend the agenda to consider.
To consider the
later
next,
on in the
right.
agenda.
Yes,
Right.
later on the
To get
agenda.
it on
First,
the
we're just
agenda.
trying to amend the
Okay.
agenda.
I'm ready.
Okay,
Have a second?
yes, we got a second.
Speaker.
Yeah, I see.
I like
Hold on, everybody. We're gonna get through this, just, AG, what do you got to say?
I've had considerable experience with council procedure, Robert Rules of Order. What Mr. Crittenden is moving is out of order and not germane to the topic.
Well, I asked my council attorney if I could amend the agenda, and
Let him,
right.
let's hear him out.
The proper procedure, Mr. Crittenden, is the agenda item would come up. You would make a motion to table that, if that was your sole desire. But to amend the agenda to basically do what you're saying is take this off and add another,
I wouldn't want to take it off.
well, then that's
I
a table.
want this lady to get her chance.
Well-
And what was presented to me, it was going to be a hand-raising contest, and I was trying to avoid that by getting both names.
Yes, but that's not, we have to go by what's on the agenda.
Right.
And the
That's
agenda.
why I tried
So
to
your
amend the
procedure-
agenda.
In my opinion, his motion is out of order.
Okay, but he can make a motion to table when we get to that agenda item.
Correct.
Okay, all right,
But
let's get
is
back
that
on
where we're
track.
going with? 'Cause I'd like to ask our council attorney.
Okay. Do you have a point to make that's,
Yeah, I do.
or you just,
No, I mean, I have a point and I'll have them amend it. The history of the council putting board members on, we have put the person's name in the legislation, okay? I think since this legislation is on there and it's blank, there's no one's name to be put in there. So whoever, when Victoria brings it up and gets the motion and she says whoever's name and
if he gets a majority,
gets the majority,
if she does not get a majority, then you can throw in another name.
yeah, because we're gonna have to amend it because it's blank. So right now, we're not voting on anybody. So
Yeah.
someone's gonna have to put their name
Yes.
in the blank.
Yeah, we could go 10 names here,
Exactly.
as long as somebody doesn't get a majority.
Yeah.
We could go
Yeah.
17 different council members.
And that's my
And that's
point.
why it's left blank.
Okay.
Okay,
And
now let's get back to
okay,
the
but
agenda.
My amendment is, I'd like to make an amendment to item number 7, or new business for this act, relating to amendment of Title 18 of the Corporation Code requiring council approval of all campaign contributions given by a Cherokee-owned corporation. I put that form of a motion.
Second.
So your motion to amend
the
the
agenda.
agenda, to add an item there.
Yeah, under new business, number 7.
Okay. Okay, got a motion to amend the agenda?
Mr. Speaker, have we concluded the previous
No.
matter?
We're still, I'm trying to get to the business item number 1 here.
Okay.
I will take that when we get to that business item, okay? Let's finish the business items first.
Well,
Because you're wanting to put it number 7.
But I wanted to amend it before we get started on the new business items.
I was going to finish the business items first, then you can come to that.
Well, let's just go ahead and amend it. Let's just go ahead and amend it, put it on there,
But-
and then go down the road.
All right, all in favor to vote to amend the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All against?
Aye.
Okay, to amend the agenda, roll call vote. Yes, if you want to amend the agenda.
Butch Jordan,
No.
Dick Lay,
Yes.
Mike Shambaugh,
No.
Mary Bakershaw,
Yes.
E.O. Smith,
No.
Janice Taylor,
No.
Victoria Vasquez,
No.
David Walkenstick,
Yes.
Ryan Warner,
No.
Bill England,
Yes.
Keith Austin,
No.
Harley Buzzard,
Yes.
Joe Byrd,
No?
Sean Crittenden,
Yes.
Mike Dobbins,
No.
Frankie Hargis, Wanda Hatfield. 6 yes and 10 no, motion fails.
Okay. New business items. Resolution number 1. This is a resolution authorizing Cherokee Nation to become a member of the National Congress of American Indians and appoint the tribal delegate and alternates.
Move for its approval.
Motion to approve, second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item number 2, Councilor Vasquez.
Speaker, can I ask a question?
This is a resolution confirming the nomination of Rick Doherty as Cherokee Nation Election Board Commissioner. I put this in a form of a motion.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second. Discussion. Councilor Lay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I think we're here now where I thought we would be. I don't know if the AG also gave the point that any name could have been placed in here at this point in time. It is now Mr. Doherty. I like him a ton. I'd like to vote for him and Martha at the same time, and leave them both on, to be honest. So a motion for an amendment was properly said that probably couldn't be done, and I agree. The further explanation of how that worked was not included. And so we're here now at Mr. Doherty's appointment, and I like the guy a ton. I've known him for years now, close to a decade. But this process was kind of a little bit convoluted. This was a council appointment. Nobody ever called me to see if I had somebody from my district that I would have liked to have placed on this election commission. I sometimes wonder that I would not put my worst enemy on that commission, because it's a lot of trouble and a lot of work. But the thing is, nobody called me and said, by the way, we got a council appointment coming up. Nobody interviewed 17 counselors, in my opinion, and gave us a shot. And so we're going to do one shot here, and I'll vote for the man. Fine, but this was not done correctly. The AG didn't spell out the full system, I think. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, AG, I apologize. You do know Roberts a whole lot better than I do. But any name could have been placed in here. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that is in accordance with past practices of the tribal council appointment.
So I wanted to point out 2 things. Any name could have been placed in there, number 1. And I was never called. I don't know if the other 17 counselors were ever called. If this is a council appointment, I would have liked to have had some of my people given a shot at a commission and a board. None of my people are on these boards or these commissions. Not one. Thank you, sir.
Councilor Critter.
All right, Speaker, I need to get where we are now. So, amidst all of the discussion, so where do we go from here?
We're in discussion right now.
I want both people considered. And
We have a motion and a second. We're in discussion right now.
As Councilman Lay said, I like Rick. I think he'd do a good job. And, I just don't just dream this stuff up to try to cause confusion. It's just, there's Martha that I want also considered. So somebody mentioned a table, somebody mentioned this. So we're gonna vote to confirm.
We'll go to confirm Rick. If he does not get a majority, then if somebody else wants to throw a name out there, you can throw a name out there.
Mr. Speaker,
He's
could we
got the
have
floor.
Rick come forward?
Yeah, but he's got the floor.
All right.
Okay, Councilor Buell.
Thank you, Joe. Like Dick said, I have to totally agree. I was never polled or anything. Never. Nobody called me from this council. Nobody. To ask me, who would you like to appoint on this board? Like Dick, I've known Rick for years. He's a great guy. But I've known Martha for 15 years too, Nobody called me and asked me, who would I like to have appointed by the council? So we would have multiple names. This is a cut and dry deal. Somebody did this on purpose to not call. I didn't get a call. And I'm like Dick, we have nobody up in our areas ever get a chance, ever. It's always from right here, always. And so, like I say, I like Rick and I like Martha both. And they're from Adair County, but they're both good people. But nobody called me. So somebody's polling people by phone.
Yes, Counselor Shelley.
May I ask whose job it is to make those phone calls?
Probably me, but I didn't call him. I didn't poll anybody on this one here.
Was Rick your nomination?
No, it was not. What I did is, usually if it's from a district, I talked to Counselor Crittenden, and he was okay with it. I talked to Counselor Hargis, and they were okay with it. From Adair County, I will give that courtesy. So when I heard those two were okay with it, then I said, okay, we'll go with that.
May I ask how his name came to you?
I just saw it in the resolution. I mean.
Well, I do want to say that Rick called me yesterday. We had a nice conversation. He seemed like a very fine person.
Yeah, I don't think this has anything to do with like.
No.
I think what we're dealing with here is a process. If it's a process that's not adequate and we don't like it, just because it's been done one way doesn't mean we can't change it. I mean, that's my opinion on this.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
could we have him come forward?
yes, sure. Rick, are you here? Yes. Yes, Counselor Crittenden.
Can I amend the resolution to add Martha to this?
No, we can't amend the resolution.
Okay.
We're still in discussion here.
Speaker?
Yes, Counselor Watkins.
This Robert's Rules of Order here, the way this is written and brought to the council, it's blank. So when Victoria brought this up, she made a motion, made a second, she's going to have to amend this piece of legislation to add the person's name to it because their name is in there. Am I right, Talina? On Robert's Rules of Order, since
Well, it's blank.
it's blank.
It's blank.
So she's brought the motion to the table.
But
There's
she named the
second.
She named the person that,
But does she have to amend the piece of legislation or the resolution first?
not necessarily.
That's not.
Resolution is blank.
That was part of my motion, was naming
Yes.
him. And also Rex recommended this person,
Yes.
and he's great, good with it.
I guess I'm out of turn here. I thought you had to, the way this is written is, it's blank. So if someone brings it to the table and says, hey, we're making a motion to nominate election board commissioner, put forward a motion, someone seconds it, and open for discussion, somebody else has to say, well, Speaker, I'd like to amend this resolution to add Rick Daugherty to it, get a second, and then vote to amend his name into this resolution.
I don't think you amend the resolution. I think you have to go with what's on the agenda.
Well, the
I've
agenda's
never
blank.
known us really just amend the resolution for an appointment like that.
Well, it's blank.
Amend the agenda.
If
But they gave out the name.
It's like Shauna Baker on this, on the Supreme Justice.
Oh, let's not go
Let's
there.
not go there.
But what I'm saying, it's the same deal, you know. Todd, you wanna?
I never did know Robert's Rules was Terrell certified. That's why we didn't do that back home. We just kind of took care of it on our own.
Again, in accordance with the past practices of council appointments, it is purposely left blank so the council can place a name in there. You can't be presumptuous and put a person's name on that ballot, on that resolution prior to this meeting. The motion was made by my Councilman Vasquez properly, that she moved, the agenda item came up, she was recognized, she moved the resolution with the name of Rick Doherty on it. It was seconded, so the orders of the day would be to a vote on Mr. Doherty. If Mr. Doherty does not receive a majority vote, then it is open up again for nominations.
You have Rick Doherty in front of you. You have a motion and a second. If he does not receive a majority, then someone else throw out a name. How's that? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Thing.
Okay. Did you get that, Shelley?
I did.
Okay. Congratulations, Rick. You got anything to say?
I appreciate it, and I'll do my best to do this job to the best of my ability. Appreciate y'all's support. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, Counselor E.O. Smith, you want to take the next one?
A resolution confirming the nomination of Lee W. Payton as a Justice of the Cherokee Nation Supreme Court. Wrong one? Three, okay. Well, I was so involved in that other. Where's this one?
Number 3. That's the withdrawal.
Give me that.
Got it?
Resolution to withdraw, confirming the nomination of Shauna Baker as Justice of the Cherokee Nation Supreme Court to be withdrawn. All right.
Okay.
Put that for me.
Motion and second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Now, item number 4, Counselor Austin, you want to take that?
Certainly, this is a resolution confirming the nomination of Lee W. Payton as Justice of the Cherokee Nation Supreme Court. I put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Is Mr. Payton here?
What's his name? Put in there.
That's a chief's appointment. We can change it also if you want to start putting names in there. We just got to change it. Yeah, I agree. Yes, any questions for Mr. Payton? Let's just go down the right side here. Counselor Buzzer?
Yes, I had a couple of questions, Mr. Payton. First of all, thank you for coming before the committee to be vetted. I have 2 questions. One is, I'd like to hear your interpretation of what sovereignty means to you.
Sovereignty is one of those nebulous legal issues that means different things when applied to different situations. Sovereignty to me is an overriding right of the tribe to make its own decisions, and that's part of what the 5 Tribes Act that was passed back in 1970 was meant to do, is to restore that ability to govern in compliance with the U.S. Constitution and the Cherokee Constitution. So as long as you have done that, you can exercise your right to bring sovereignty as an issue in deciding a variety of different cases. Land cases, for example, are a good example of where sovereignty is an important element. Does that help you?
Yeah, thank you for your answer. The other question I've got, as you know, we're selecting a Chief Justice for our Supreme Court, the Cherokee Nation, and also the United States is selecting the Supreme Court of Justice. If you were going to select a Supreme Court Justice, what would you be looking for in that person?
Well, I think the most important elements are that they have an understanding of tribal statutes, the Constitution of the Cherokee Nation, and I think it's also important to have some understanding of the way regulations work, because statutes are the general form of the law, but in many cases, regulations wind up being the process that's used to enact and enforce the law. So a justice of the Cherokee Nation Supreme Court has to have an understanding of how that operates. And I had a little bit of experience in doing that, serving on the EAB and the Employee Appeals Board. And none of the issues that I sat on followed the same kinds of situations. It followed statutes, but then there were also regulations, mainly HR regulations, that played a big part in making a determination whether the employee's rights had been violated or whether the employee was wrong in the way those regulations were interpreted.
Thank you, sir.
Very good. Yes.
Thank you, Joe. And thank you for coming before us. I know it's grueling sometimes, and my questions are not going to be real grueling, but first question I have, are you in relation to John?
We had that discussion at the banquet the other night, and as far as we can tell, we are not related.
Oh.
But Payton is not an unusual name in Adair County, for sure, where my ancestors came from. And it's also a very popular name in western Oklahoma as well, and I didn't know that for a long time. So no, I'm not related to him, but I'll bet you somewhere our relationships could be traced back to each other. I've never done. My grandfather told me one time that he didn't want to get into this genealogy issue because you may find a horse thief in your background. And so I took that as wise advice, and I've never done that.
Okay, thank you. And the next question I have, you are a registered Cherokee citizen, right?
Absolutely.
Card carrying.
Absolutely.
And you belong to the Cherokee Nation Bar?
I do.
How long have you belonged to?
Well,
been a member
the
of
Bar
that?
Association was kind of reconstituted in, I believe, 2014. It was either 2013 or 2014. And I joined the Bar Association when that occurred. So I've been a member since 2014.
Okay, good. And you live in Tulsa?
I do.
Good, you live up in my area, so.
Right, right.
So, anyway, that's all I have, thank you.
Okay. Any questions, Counselor?
No questions. Give them a time for Janine.
Counselor Taylor?
And I just want to say, you bring a wealth of experience, and I appreciate you stepping up to do this. And I hope you're up to date on what's going on with the Murphy case, because I think that's going to change a lot of things in tribal law. So,
Right.
appreciate you coming forward.
Counselor Vasquez?
Yes. Hello. Obviously, you've got lots of experience in complex areas of the law, which is great, and you've got decades of experience as well as in Indian law, and I think that's very important. And I welcome you, and I'm happy to vote yes for you. Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Yeah. Counselor Hargreaves?
I have no questions.
Counselor Shambaugh?
I really have more comment than a question. I think you're very qualified to do this job. From my experience being in working with state governments and on occasion federal governments, I know that a lot of judges don't have experience when they're first put in. I mean, at some point in time, people are elected to be judges, and it seems like about 7 out of 10 times they're new judges. So from looking at your background, I have no doubt that this may be the first time you're going to be a judge, but I think you're well qualified to do the job. And that's basically all I have to say.
Good. Counselor Smith?
I'm kind of just like Mike. I think you're well qualified and well read.
Appreciate Counselor Jordan?
Do you have the time that it's going to take to be a Supreme Court judge? To devote your time to it?
Well, yes, sir, I think I do. One of the things that I have been in the process of doing is reducing the amount of people that I represent, and I only represent at this time two individuals, and one of those I'm getting ready to terminate that agreement. So I think I will, and I look forward to having something that can fill my I don't play golf. I don't have a lot of hobbies. So I don't want to just go to the store for milk.
And you are able to practice in the highest court in Oklahoma.
That's correct. And I'm also qualified to practice in the federal courts in Oklahoma as well.
That's all I have.
Yeah, Councilor Walkinstead.
Thank you, Speaker. So the biggest issue we had on our last Supreme Justice was being a member of the Cherokee Bar. Are you a member of that?
Yes.
Okay. What's your, how many years have you been practicing as a judge?
My experience as a judge came from my appointment as a special hearing officer on the Employee Appeals Board. And that was in 2013.
Okay. How many years did you do that for?
I did that until the Tribal Council changed the statute in 2017.
Okay. What's your relationship to David Walters?
My relationship with David Walters is a friendship that's gone on for many, many years. I have no contractual relationship with him at all. He has often called me and asked me questions about particular issues that I have worked on. I did a lot of representation from 1978 to 2017 at the Corporation Commission in Oklahoma. And there were oil and gas issues, there were some other things that we talked about, but it was not a situation where he was my client, he's my friend.
Okay. You guys worked together on the Arkansas Riverbed settlement?
We came before the Tribal Council at one point. Governor Walters did. The issue really was not the Arkansas Basin Commission. It was the development of a project that was approved back in the 80s to build a generation plant on the navigation project. That project, I think Speaker Byrd has a long memory of the many times that that's come up, and that project's never been beyond the early development stage. And one of the things that's valuable about that project is that there's already a commitment, a legislative commitment from Congress to do it. And so we were looking at whether there was an opportunity to resurrect that and provide some additional operating revenue to the tribe. Again, it went through a process and it's never progressed. And the only real thing that I was involved in was kind of looking back at the legislative history of the project and trying to see if we needed to change the statute that permitted the location of a hydroelectric generator on the navigation project, or whether that was sufficient. I found that it didn't appear to need any additional authorization. It just needed some commitment to actually do it.
What's your stance on the UKB and their trying to get land into trust within our jurisdiction? What's your stance, your thoughts on that?
That would be a difficult one, since that's pending litigation right now, when you think, Council.
I'm asking his opinion, Speaker.
Yeah, well, his opinion.
Well, that was the way I was going to answer that. It's pending litigation. It may come back to the Supreme Court of the nation, and I'm just required by ethics to listen to the evidence, to review the materials associated with the case, and then make the decision based on what I think is the appropriate way to go. And I am familiar with the issue, but I'm not familiar enough with it to opine any kind of opinion, and I think I'd be out of order to do that. When it comes up, I'll look at it based on what's presented.
Okay, well, all right, well, thank you, Lee.
Councilor Lay.
Thank you, Speaker. Hello, Mr. Payton.
Hello, Mr. Lay.
We talked a couple of times.
We've talked 2 or 3 times.
One of the times we talked was about the Selection Act and your involvement in it. And I asked you to, and I talked to Edmund, a couple of them, to set you down and record you and get your thoughts on that.
Right.
It always amazed me as an amateur historian how that went down. So.
Well, it was a really interesting process. I think I addressed that a little bit, but I can, if you don't mind, I could do about a 2-minute summary. Chief Keeler was appointed, I believe it was 1947 was the first year that he was appointed by the President of the United States. What happened when the Cherokee, or when the Indian Territory and Oklahoma Territory were combined with each other, it required the passage of what was called the Enabling Act, and it was a federal statute, and the sovereignty of the nation was eliminated by that act. The Constitution was revoked. The tribal council was abolished. The court systems were abolished. And the only thing that remained was a token, if you will, and I don't consider Mr. Keeler to be a token, but because he made great contributions to the tribe. But the point I'm trying to make is that they didn't have, the chief didn't have any authority at all. He had to go to the BIA for everything, or the Department of the Interior. And that Enabling Act statute did away with all of that. And so when Mr. Keeler was subject to reappointment in 1969, he had to come up to the Congress and appear before the Senate Interior Committee. And Senator Bellman, who I worked for, happened to be on the Interior Committee. And that they were also already good friends from Governor Bellman serving as governor before he was elected to the Senate. And he was in the office, and in the course of the conversation, he said to Senator Bellman, you know, it's time for us to govern ourselves again. We've demonstrated several different times that the tribe has the ability to do that, and the other tribes that were removed to Oklahoma have similar ability. And so we ought to at least address the Enabling Act requirement to do away with tribal government and reinstate it. And so my boss called me in, and Mr. Keeler went through that again, and we immediately got on the phone and contacted Congressman Edmondson, who represented the 2nd District at that time represented virtually all of the Cherokee Nation. But it also represented other Indian tribes that were, quote, called the civilized tribes. And so those 5 tribes were designated as needing this restoration. And so we developed a draft copy of the legislation, and we circulated it to the principal chiefs of the 5 tribes, asking them to talk to important members of the tribe who would look at this as an opportunity to further themselves. And if you'll remember back in the 60s and 50s, and some of you aren't old enough to remember that, but tribes didn't do very much as far as business-related activities. The Cherokee Nation was had a thriving number of small business operations, including a number of government contracts. And Mr. Keeler said, you know, if we can build something for the government, then we ought to, you know, we ought to have the ability to control our own destiny. And so it went from there. The act itself only met minor changes, the most significant of which was that the original language said to popularly elect the principal chief or governor. In the case of the Chickasaws, they use a different title. I know I've taken too long on this, but the bottom line is that it passed the House and passed the Senate virtually by a voice vote. And the president already had agreed to sign it. Couldn't understand why he was appointing an Indian chief in Oklahoma, or 5 of them in this case. And so it was enacted. The change that was made from popularly elect was to popularly select. And every tribe then determined how they wanted to do that. And the bottom line is that each one of them agreed to an election process. And so that's what started the change. It's been a very valuable change for the Cherokee Nation, but it's been a very valuable change for the other 4 tribes as well. And now we go through a process like you're going through today to make the statutes and subsequently the rules that govern the way the tribe works.
That was always just amazing to me. Like I said, that the second phone call you and I had, we talked about, you know, your work history and your bio.
Right.
And your resume that we had at that time. And you told me you worked for P&E and 2014 on the wind farm agreement, at the same time working for us on the employee appeals board. Was that, do you think that's an ethical problem, or?
Well, first of all, I think you misunderstood our conversation, and I did not work on the development of the wind farm contract. I'm familiar with it. I've looked at it a number of different times because my relationship with P&E was a relationship to examine other contracts that they negotiated with private landowners and with others, and determine whether they met the requirements of Oklahoma contract law. And I did that. I've done that from 2014 until the present. I'm getting ready to terminate my relationship with P&E. The project, I don't know how often you get brought up to date, but the project is ready to construct. It's finding someone to purchase the output of the wind farm and sign a long-term contract. And
was that where Clean Line was supposed to come in?
Well, Clean Line had, to my knowledge, never had any kind of association with the project. I know that B&E talked to Clean Line on a number of occasions. I just know that by virtue of somebody saying, well, we talked to Clean Line so-and-so and so-and-so. But the contracts for transmission of electricity are currently with Oklahoma Gas and Electric and OG&E.
That's from Chilocco?
That's from Chilocco, and that's for transmission of all of the output from the wind farm to the potential buyer of the electricity. And
wouldn't that have to be somebody like the Clean Line?
well,
There's not enough capacity out there to accept it at this time. Is that correct or not?
That's not good.
my understanding of the situation is that OG&E and Western Farmers have a binding contract with the developer, who's P&E. It's called an interconnection agreement, which is a technical term that means that you can hook your lines up. You can hook your lines up and feed electricity into those two electric systems. We have a whole different arrangement than we had for many, many years. And now Southwest Power Pool, which is a public entity that manages the building and construction of our power lines, not plants. And then ultimately is charged with the responsibility of figuring how much capacity is available on a day-to-day basis. And that's done all electronically.
Were they part of the group that inherited Clean Line assets?
No,
if any?
no. To my knowledge, Clean Line never really had any assets.
That's
Yeah.
right.
They never built anything. They were, it was a good idea with all of the energy, with all of the wind power and solar power that's being developed in our region. It was a good idea. But they couldn't get enough interest financially to make it work. And that company is in the process of I don't say it's not going to no longer exist, but essentially that's the situation with
Thank you. Won't take up any more time.
Thank you. Councilor Shaw.
Hi, Mr. Payton.
Hi.
Thank you for coming here today.
Thank you.
I have a few questions here, and I appreciate you answering the one on Clean Line Energy. We discussed that about 9 months ago at length in here, and I appreciate your view on that, sharing that. Thank you. Could you please tell me what Onset Inc. is?
Onset Inc. is a company that I have been associated with. And I own a very, very small percentage of the company. The problem we have with renewable energy, and this isn't just in California because that's a California-based company with an intent to do.
Could you speak just a little louder?
Sure, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
Seems to be a lot of noise.
The problem with wind and solar energy is that they are not what's called dispatchable. And that term means that you can't turn a switch and turn a wind farm on, or turn a switch and turn a solar plant on. And if the wind blows, then the wind farm automatically turns, the wind turbines turn. If a solar plant exists, then the same is true, but it's the sun that has to shine. And so there's no way to turn them on like you turn an electric power plant at Ulaga, which PSO owns, or the power plants that you see when you drive on 62 that OG&E owns. And so the concept began as an idea to build small gas-fired power plants and use them to, quote, back up the wind and solar. The issue changed over time, and so existing power plants that operate for maybe only in the summertime would have the opportunity to provide that electricity to keep the wind flowing or the solar flowing into the system, and just provide a little bump and a little boost. And we're in the process of Onset is in the process of beginning a pilot project with a local electric. It's not a cooperative, it's a municipally owned, or it's actually a county-owned system that has natural gas-fired plants that would be used. And then it owns its own solar and it owns its own wind power. And to demonstrate that this is we've demonstrated technically that it's a workable project. If it has an application, it can be applied in Oklahoma in the same way that it would be applied in California. And so that, in probably too long an answer, it tells you.
No, but I appreciate knowing what it was because I couldn't figure it out.
Right.
Listen, since the majority of your career has been working for energy companies, how will that experience relate to our highest court in our tribe?
Well, the tribe owns a lot of land, and that land is often used for rights-of-way, for power lines. Chilocco is a good example. The tribal's assets at Chilocco are not only the land itself, but there are a number of oil and gas leases on that property. There are electric right-of-ways on that property. And so that experience will help me have a better understanding of an issue that might come up involving tribal lands or involving allotted lands that would involve a Cherokee citizen.
Okay. In the last 5 years, how much experience have you had in writing legal briefs, and how many have you written?
I have written probably 5 legal briefs, and they mainly involved contractual issues that involve P&E's project development for the Chilocco tribe. I also have.
I'm sorry, you said for the Chilocco tribe?
For the Chilocco project.
So, I'm sorry, Chilocco project. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
And some of them were very general, others involved very specific legal issues.
Okay. And have you written any scholarly legal publications in the last 5 years or so?
I think to answer that question, I would tell you that I participated with others in writing those and was mentioned in the submission, but I myself doing it alone, no.
Okay, would those mostly be in relationship to energy?
Yes, but they also involve property issues. They involve environmental issues, and so they're not just one subject matter. They address maybe 2 or 3 issues.
Mr. Payton, do you have a record of voting in our elections?
I do. I think I can get my card out, but I think I enrolled when I was in 1992, and I voted in a number of elections since '92.
Very good. And then one last question. I see here in December the 12th, 2013, that you were a special hearing officer for the Cherokee Administrative Appeals Board. What were your responsibilities?
The way the appeals board was comprised was from the tribal chief appointed the members of the appeals board, and several of those, including one member of the court today, served as an appeals board court judge, but he was elevated to the Supreme Court. The statute provides for a special hearing officer to sit when there are not 3 judges available, and that court was made up of 3 individuals, so that you don't get in a situation where you can't get decision because it would be split 50-50 if you only had two and neither of them agreed. And so Chief Baker asked me if I would be willing to serve as a special judge, and I undertook that. It was a marvelous educational experience related to how the tribe operated and how the employees are hardworking, dedicated people. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I learned a lot of stuff about how HR works and about how various agencies of the nation work.
I have no more questions. Thank you.
Council Warner.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Payton, thank you for coming today. It's a pleasure to have you here. I want to thank you especially for your work and your commitment to the tribes in Oklahoma and your early work that you spoke of with Councilor Lay. I think that's important to the process that we're setting in actually today. And, I just want to thank you for your continued commitment to your field and your craft and the things that you've done. I think you bring a good background to what we have today. I mean, a lot of the things that we're dealing with today are environmental issues. They are land issues, amongst several other things that we've sat here and discussed. So I thank you for your time to put in, for your knowledge, your skills, and your abilities. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. The environment is something I truly love, both on the legal side and enjoying the clean air we enjoy and the clean water we enjoy. When I was in D.C., I worked on the passage of the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act and a couple of other similar kinds of environmental things. So I love that, and I think and I would just say, when I served as a member of the DEQ board, one of the things that happened is the Cherokee Nation developed an environmental agency that got certified by EPA to monitor clean air and clean water. And that information has proved invaluable to the state of Oklahoma and to the Cherokee Nation and its citizens by virtue of the fact that that's another monitoring station that the state was not entitled to, but the Indian tribe was. It's been very beneficial.
Good. Councilor Crittenden.
Sir, I'd like to thank you too for coming, and it's been an honor listening to you talk. When Chief Baker approached you about this position, what would you say that you got in your mind that this is going to give me an opportunity to, what would you say?
Well, to continue, I truly love the EAB assignment because I thought I'd made a valuable contribution to that. And it will allow me to continue to represent, the judicial process in a way that benefits not just employees of the Cherokee Nation, but the Cherokee Nation and its citizens as well.
And you mentioned the land issues that come up from time to time, and I'm sure you're familiar with some of the Cherokee folks in my area anyway, in a lot of these folks' areas. They take pride in those tribal lands.
Right.
And, from things as simple as being able to hunt on those lands, and I would imagine you feel strongly about those rights.
I've got a hunting and fishing license in my pocket. And I've never been asked for it, but I look forward to using it.
Well, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
We checked it out. Is that it? Councilor Austin.
Yes, Mr. Payton, I appreciate you being here today, and appreciate your very generous visit on the phone. Really helped me to feel very comfortable. In reading your resume and in our talk, I noticed that you had extensive experience with government on all levels, with the federal government when
it was Senator Bellman, and then on to the state. You've been appointed by 3 governors of 2 different parties, and that's encouraging. And you've served on the Board of Health, the Health and Environmental, on the health and environmental issues, and then I'm not quite sure what the board was called, but the Department of Environmental Quality under David Walters and then Frank Keating. These are all issues that are very important to us.
And also Governor Henry.
Oh, Governor Henry.
Served 2 years in his first term.
Okay, so truly served just about every governor that I can remember.
Yeah.
And I am in awe of your experiences and the opportunity to have you bring those experiences to us. Serving on those boards are all issues that are very important to us as a tribe. Those are things that have exposed you to those issues that you know are keystone issues.
Right.
And how do you believe that will you'll be able to use that in this appointment?
Well, I don't think the responsibility of a judge is just to sit on the bench and hear cases. I think you also have to be able to contribute your knowledge, and your environmental knowledge, your health issues knowledge, your way government works and operates, and hopefully I will be able some way to make a contribution to and be available to answer questions or to make suggestions, not from a standpoint of a legal decision, but here's the way so-and-so did something, or here's the way they did it, and that's how they got to operate the way they operate. And so I think I can be a benefit in that way as well.
Excellent. You have a guest with you today.
I do.
Would you like to introduce her?
Yes, I'd like to introduce. This is my wife of almost 48 years. We're getting very close. And she's a native Oklahoman, as I am. Grew up in Ardmore, went to OU. Is the mother of our 2 children and the grandmother of our 4 grandchildren. And she has helped me from day one. That's one of the reasons I love her dearly, and I'm very proud of her and the contribution she makes as well.
Well, it's obvious the fact that when you speak of her, you still smile.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Judge Payton, it's an honor and a privilege to have you come before us, and it's when looking at your resume, it's quite impressive. And you're a member of the Cherokee Bar.
I am a member of the Cherokee Bar.
That doesn't necessarily really qualify people, but I have legislation that I would like to put as a thought to the Supreme Court and even the council to consider. To me, when we're looking at being a member of our highest court, the Cherokee Nation, I think we have to have some standards, and we have to raise those standards. By you just being a member of a Cherokee Bar tells me that you were involved somewhere in our history. And I've seen, and we've had people being confirmed that wasn't a member of our Cherokee Bar, but they were judges and they were well qualified in that manner. But that tells me when you are a member that you've got some history with us, and I really appreciate that. And you're a environmentalist, and that makes me feel good as well because of protecting the lands that we have out there in the 14-county jurisdiction. And I'm impressed with the answers that you gave on sovereignty. I just have one question.
Okay.
Violence Against Women Act, VAWA. What's your stance on it?
Well, I've been married to a very strong woman for 47 years. And so my experience, when you live in a household with 2 women and two males and 2 females, you have to look at things on an equal basis. And violence against women is something that's just totally repugnant to me. And so if a case came before the court, I certainly would have to look at the facts and statutes, but I would be remiss in dismissing any kind of violent activity just based on sex alone. Because there are situations where both sexes are at fault, and it may drive one sex to be more proactive than another, but we've got to be concerned about protecting our mothers and our fathers and our sisters and our brothers.
Absolutely. I have 4 sisters as well, and we didn't ever seem to have an advantage there with that many females in the family, so I concur with your sentiments.
When my son went away to college, it was 2 against 1 because I've got a daughter and a wife, and and I don't mean this in a vulgar way, but I had to remember to put the lid down.
Yeah, well, that's another plus for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, listen, I don't want to get into somebody else's agenda here, and we have other meetings coming up, but very impressive resume, and we just appreciate you being here. It's an honor. So with that...
Could I just say one short thing, and that is that I truly appreciate the opportunity to appear before you. I know how important an issue confirming someone as important as a judge or justice of the Supreme Court is, and I appreciate the time you've taken today, and I pledge that I will be available to do the job that you have seen fit to confirm me. So thank you for your time and your questions.
Okay. Let's have a motion and a second. Let's do roll call vote, Shelley.
Rex Jordan,
Yes.
Dick Light,
No.
Mike Shambaugh,
Yes.
Mary Bakershaw,
Yes.
Theo Smith,
Yes.
Denise Taylor,
Yes.
Victoria Vesquez,
Yes.
David Walkenstick,
Yes.
Brian Warner,
Yes.
Bill England,
Yes.
Keith Austin,
Yes.
Harley Buzzard,
Yes.
Joe Byrd,
Yes.
Sean Crittenden,
Yes.
Mike Dobbins,
Yes.
Frankie Hargis,
Yes.
1 Hatfield. We have 15-1. Motion passes.
Congratulations. Moving down to the next item, this is an act relating to the qualifications Supreme Court Justices of the Cherokee Nation Supreme Court. I had a legislative act in front of you. I substituted with a resolution. I'm one for raising the bar on qualifications, whether you're going to serve as a school board, commissioner, appeals court, whatever it may be with the tribe. So I took a long, hard look at this, but I did not want to go against the Constitution of Cherokee Nation with the legislative act. So I'm going to substitute it with the resolution, but not today. So at this time, I'm going to yield to Councilor Shambaugh here.
I would like to make a motion that this is tabled for 30 days.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Councilor Lay, you have the last item on the agenda.
Yes, sir, thank you. Discussion only, new CMB, CNE, hiring preference guidelines has deleted the promotion and upgrade training portion of the policy guideline. And let me go ahead and turn to that, and as of Monday of this week, we have a new policy guideline that was sent to us by Mr. Slayton. And so it addressed some of the things that they had previously left out in the about 8/13/2018 policy guideline. New guideline is dated 9/24/2018. I've asked if they be sent to you. I think you've got them by email, so I don't know if you got a hard copy or not, but those will also be, if you do, those will also, I believe, be confidential. And I don't know if they're marked or not, but they should be. And so about a month ago, we talked about it in committee, Sean and I. He said they were done and he signed them in, I think, error, or they weren't complete. I forget exactly what Sean said. I see a nod, so he kind of agrees with me.
Something got left out that I didn't catch.
And if I say something wrong, tell me.
Sure.
But, so then, they said they were gonna work on it, we talked about it in full council last time. And they're still working on it, and so this Monday, we've got another preference letter, which includes hiring, promotions, and training. But I haven't had a lot of time to look this over, but I don't think it's complete yet, Sean. And I've kind of asked the general to take a look at it. And to tell me if I'm seeing something I don't see, or not seeing something that's really in it, okay? And I hope that, so I hope that you don't think ill of me, because I don't know that you guys can make an exception on your own. That's one of the things that's in the new one. I don't know that Sean Slayton can change the policy guideline without the chief signing off on it, and maybe he does sign off on it. Don't know. That's never been talked about. So there are a couple of areas that I'm still concerned about. And I know it's Tim sitting to your right, my left, your right. And so, Tim, for y'all to look at, and payroll's a law. It's not just a policy guideline. And so if it's a law, then it has to be followed to the letter. And I don't know, I know the 813 policy guideline did not do that. The 924 gets a whole bunch closer. We're almost there. Again, compared to the old policy that y'all had for years. But if you want to comment to me or try to tell me I'm wrong, that'd be fine. But I've asked the general to verbally to take a look at it. And if I have to, I'll email them and have them take a look at it, because I don't think you guys can make your exceptions on your own. And I don't think that you can, and I wonder if you can change a policy guideline without running it by the chief. And those are just two issues that are on my mind.
I was just going to respond. We have looked at it, but today is the response. I thought you may ask us about it. We only looked at it as to whether or not it violated TARO, and we don't think it does. If there are specific questions about policy changes, we can look at that as well. Is your question, can CMB change their policies without the chief signing it?
Let me email those to you.
Okay.
Because I haven't, it just came out Monday.
Okay.
We've been busy racking up for this day. And so I still think there are a couple of areas that need looked at. And if you're saying it's all clean and good and you blessed it, I may take issue with that, if I may. So.
Well, blessed as far as there's nothing in it that violates the TARO law.
So
And that's what
Sean
we looked at.
Slayton on his own can make an exception to a preference policy. Do you bless that?
Can he make an exception to it?
Can he amend the policy without concurrence from the chief is the question.
Yeah, I don't think the chief concurs with any CMB policies. I think their board
If
does.
this is a TARO law, then the policy comes out of that law. It's not just a policy guideline, HR from CMB and a few directors sit around and pass around a few times and say, how about this one? Do you like this one? Let's sign it. And apparently that's what happened on the 813 issue. And so that was a mistake, and it was told to me it was an error and a mistake, accidentally, and I accept that, and that's fine, but I don't see how a director or a CEO or whatever, you can make exceptions and/or change a policy guideline that comes from a law without it going through the chief's office. That's what I'm saying.
Just generally, CMB policies are approved by either CMB CEO and/or CMB board. We don't,
I understand, but this is not just a policy. You're not getting my drift here. This is, payroll's a law.
yeah, and Taro says preference shall be given in hiring, promotion, and training. I think it's one sentence. So as long as.
Well, it's not just, yeah.
That part of it, right, preference is, it's very short. So as long as a policy doesn't violate that, what you call preference and how you determine preference and all of that, those are policies that are made by us on the government side, and we have HR policies on preference hiring as well. And C&B on their side, the written policies, they can't violate Taro, right? They can't say you can't give preference.
I understand what you're saying.
Except for the federal.
But 813 certainly violated payroll.
Because it didn't include
Shaking his head
promotion.
no, and I beg to differ, sir.
It didn't include promotion.
813 violated payroll, period.
Let me, when I get a chance, I'll speak to it if I could.
But I will follow up. We
Okay.
have reviewed it, and we'll follow up if you have if you want to send us in writing specific
I'll
questions.
send them over.
And let us know if you want it as a official or not opinion.
Well, I think that's the only way to do it. If you guys are gonna bless what I see here in front of me, I'd like to have that on record.
Well, we'll give you an answer in writing, but we don't like publish official opinions unless we're asked for an AG opinion versus just ask a question. So let us know how you want that, and we'll look at it.
Thank you. Anyway, I'll table this for a month, Chief.
Like, can I address that issue you were talking about just for a second?
Not really, because I know what you're gonna say, and here's the deal. You either go by payroll law, Tim, or you don't.
We do. And that's what I want to tell you about.
On the
If you'll give
813
me the
issue-
consideration,
on the
to just
813
talk to you
issue,
for about 5 minutes, I would like to
You did
tell
not go by payroll law. You violated payroll law.
you. That is not true.
That is true.
Can I speak to it, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Lay, you're correct.
Mr.
You're
Baker,
you're correct.
you're a well-known attorney, and you can out-debate me
No, I'm not gonna
anytime, anyplace, anywhere. We all know that.
I'm not going to try
But
to
if I
outdebate
were
you.
to show people on the outside the payroll law, and if I were to show them the 813 issue of your payroll law, that you tell me it does not violate payroll, they would very quickly say that it did.
Pass those down.
I think I'd win the vote.
Okay, what I'm passing out to you is to show you what the old law was and what the new law is. And there has been, it's all in there. I agree with you, Mr. Lay, that in August, that when they were redrafting, a secretary didn't put in the part about promotion. That was the part was left out. As soon as it came to our attention, that was corrected. And the only reason it's, let me go ahead and finish.
Let me interrupt just a moment. When you say it was done in error, I think is what you're telling me.
The secretary that typed it left out the promotion. She put the other part in, but she left out promotion. When it came to our attention.
That went company-wide, Mr. Baker.
Okay.
Do you realize that? That was your payroll policy, that was your, hiring policy.
I was given a red line of what changes they were making, and I approved the red line, but the red line it wasn't what got typed. And as I said, when it came to our attention, and nothing happened, there was no person came up for a promotion during that period of time. It did not affect a single person. And as soon as we wanted to get it right, and believe, since this administration, we now have 800 more Cherokees working for the tribe than before. We now have almost doubled the dividends. We are trying to look at the two goals, which is to have more jobs for Cherokees and try to get more dividends for the tribe. And we're doing that, and
That's a good political speech, sir.
it's not a political speech, it's the truth. And if you'll look at those documents, I have them highlighted, they have the same information in them that they had before. Now, the part that you're talking about, Sean, being able to make a change, if you'll look, it was in the old rule, and it's in the new rule at the very bottom, and it says,
And that's what I'm asking.
that's been there since
The
'04.
Attorney General I'm not asking you, you work for Sean Slayton.
No.
I'm
Well,
gonna ask the Attorney General that question.
I'm just saying that the document has been there. I didn't come on until 2015.
I
This has been
understand.
there since '04,
I understand.
and it hasn't been changed. We didn't change anything.
But-
That's all
but
and I brought it so you could look at it and see it.
The tradition of the rule was followed.
Tim, let us look at this and
Sure.
review it, because there's a motion to table, and this will give us some information. AG's not here anyway, so,
We sent it to the AG before this last, I didn't think it was proper for Sean to sign it till the AG gave their blessing about it, so we sent it to them. That's the only reason it took a little bit longer time for it to get back, to make sure that there wasn't any omissions about it. I quite frankly didn't work on the first phase of it, but because this had come up, Bob was out of town, and so I came down here today to try, and so I just pulled both of them to show you that the language is the same. There hasn't been any kind of changing around, and I know that I take it real personal about making sure that we hire Cherokees as much as we can. And if they're suited for the job, we try to make sure that that's done, and I try to make sure that that they're treated more than fairly.
okay. All right, thank you.
Can I make my speech now?
Yes.
Mr. Baker made his.
Okay.
From time to time, we hear of mid-level and upper-level jobs that are taken by non-Indians and non-Cherokees. We usually hear about them 6 months to a year too late. There's nothing you can do, nothing you can say. So I want to impress upon CMB, Mr. Baker, at this time, that please don't do that kind of stuff, and please don't send out something like the 813 issue again. Because I fully intend, I don't have much time left here, but I will fully intend to call you on it each and every time that you mess up.
I'd be glad
Well,
for you to do
I
that.
believe in Cherokee preference.
If you didn't
I think you do, but you're telling me you do, but the argument that I'm getting with you, it shows me that maybe your heart's not in the right place.
Well, Mr. Lay, as I said,
We have a motion to table, and that ends the discussion. So at this time, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Other discussions?
We vote on the table?
Yes. We had a motion to table here. We got a second. We hadn't voted on that yet. All in favor of motion to table?
Aye.
Okay.
All
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. Now I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion adjourned, second. I got about 10 minutes.